And good afternoon, everybody. Good almost evening. I'm going to open up with a little song. It's a very popular holiday tune, but I was digging through my arsenal and about maybe 2 years ago, let's see, 3 years ago maybe. Let's be last year, 2 years ago, when we did holiday camp, one of the songs I featured was Jingle Bells. And I wanted to do it a little bit differently than normal. And I actually got the idea from, if you don't know the name Brian Setzer, anybody know the name Brian Setzer by chance? He's a guitar player, and he was known for the popular group that came out in the 80s, back when MTV was on the rise. And there was a group called the Stray Cats. And some people are familiar with that band. And they did a lot of kind of a rockabilly, I think a lot of people referred to it. It was kind of like a blend of 50s with rock. And it was just a three-piece band. And it was guitar and vocal, Brian Setzer, and the drum and an upright bass. It was just a real good classic sound. And but he's actually got an orchestra, and I encourage you, if you like the holiday tunes, your classics, look up Brian Setzer and his orchestra. He's got a heck of a couple holiday albums out there that are phenomenal, and it's got a big band orchestra and the whole works with the guitar. In fact, one of the songs they do is actually a rendition of "In the Mood" with Santa Claus Is Coming to Town, and then he does it with a guitar. But one of the songs he does is, he re-recorded, was Jingle Bells in a kind of a 50s rock and roll feel. So when I did this song, I thought, I'm going to try to capture that idea. Now, having said that, I'm going to do a little learning moment here, or relearning moment. One of the things that I mentioned in the classes was, if you ever have a USB that has songs recorded on it, and you know the artist that recorded that song used their personal presets, you could still get those presets for them. So it actually happened to me today. It was 2 years ago, so I couldn't remember. And I went to go load the presets, and let me just pull up that screen there, and it'll be a little blurry, but I think you'll get the point. And so I did what we've been telling everybody. If you want to load presets, just push the USB. And as you can see there, let me pull up this screen here so it's a little bigger. Okay, so USB, and then you got load setups or presets. Now when I did it, it said no data found. I went, oops. So I went to the song and see if the songs were recorded on this USB, and I didn't have all the songs. So yeah, they're there. Now if you play these songs, if you play the song on your USB and you look at the dashboard and you see A1 or B1 or A2 and then the A3 and advancing, then you know that the artist used their own customized presets to play that song. But if they did not put those presets on the USB, well, you can still capture them by using the feature called Load Song Presets, or Load Song Setup, same thing. So I'm going to use the one there instead of this one in this case. And when I do that, it says, which song do you want to grab the presets from? And in this case, I hit Jingle Bells, and I just did all. And you heard some of them. You got a little hint of it. And so I'm going to play Jingle Bells using these presets. I don't remember the order I use them in, so I'm just going to make it up as I go. I know it's 1 through 5. Let's see here. Yeah, 1 through 5, and I got a brass shake in there, growl saxophone. And now I play it in key of G or F sometimes, so if I play it on... Okay, I'm not used to playing in C, so we'll see what happens. I might goof it up, but we'll just roll with it. Here we go. All right. Well, thank you, thank you, thank you. I hope you enjoyed that.
That's jamming, Robin.
Yeah, I like having a little fun with that. By the way, if you put on that rhythm, um, as a side note there, if you do this, if you listen to it, when you put it on, usually it comes up like this, something along these lines. Which is pretty cool, right? But I'm going to do the same thing with an intro and see if you can tell the difference. It's a slight difference. Okay, so there's that. Or, wait. So would you like to know what the difference was?
Mm-hmm.
Only one of you? You got to have at least two people. Okay. You got to buy that USB from 2 years ago. No. Actually, that's the 50s guitar rock, and I believe it's called something different, slightly different on the A and the SUs. But if it's you're under your rock category, if you put your 50s swing rock, it might be called the same thing. Let me just take a quick peek here. Yeah, it is called the same thing. 50s swing rock. All right. And then all I did is in some of my presets, I went from auto bass 1. Now, so you can hear it, let me turn off the band. Let me have just the drummer and the bass player. Okay. And I put on auto bass 2.
Good.
And you get that boogie woogie piano.
Woogie woogie.
Yeah, so you have a little fun with that. Okay. Another little recap. Last week, I encourage you to do this. It was funny because I actually had a student that didn't get a chance to see the class last week, and she asked me this very question. And I would encourage you to get a separate USB stick. I'm going to sound like a broken record here. And if you're not comfortable using it, get a blank USB stick and just, doesn't matter if you erase it, delete it, whatever, okay? And try this. But she came up to me, she said, we had a little session the other day, and she said, do I have to load in the presets every time I want to play a new song? She was doing the holiday camp, okay? And she says, do I have to load it in every time? And my answer was yes and no. She didn't like that answer. And the reason why it was yes and no is some of us, I did this as an example. When I did my presets for this, I put on number, actually, let me just pull it up on the screen real quick. Let's see, here we go. By the way, I figured out why I had the issue with trying to get my thing converted yesterday. I'm so glad I figured it out. Okay, so let me pull up the screen up here, and I have it in a different view, so hopefully it's bigger. Even if it's a little blurry, you can still read it. Okay, so I've got my load setups, and I'm gonna this year we actually put the presets, but you'll notice here that it says Holy A1 through 4. You'll see some says B1 through 3, C1 through 4. And so a lot of us, we did that for various reasons. My presets, however, you'll see it says A0 through 5, B0 to 4, and E1 through 5, okay? Now, I made my presets so that if you loaded in Joy to the World and you just hit all, what's also in that group are the other two.
Oh.
Okay? So I know that they're there. All right? But not everybody did that. Most of the time when we make presets, and it's normal, it's natural, we make presets like Carrie, for example. I do this all the time. He has when you load in Angels We've Heard, you're loading in, even if you load in all, the presets are accessible on the A bank. If you want Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer presets, they're on the A bank. So you got to load them in each time. And then Oh Christmas Tree. So what I taught last week, I'm not going to go into detail this week. I'm going to encourage you to watch that class, but I'm just going to touch on it. And last week, and actually I think I just posted, that one I just posted on YouTube. So if I do Angels We Have Heard, and I do all, and then I got to do it over and over again. So how we did it, what I suggested is, if you have a group of songs you want to play, remember, you have, in most cases, you have either A, B, C on your instrument, or you have A, B, C, D, E, okay? So if you have 3 or 4 or 5 songs you want to play, you don't want to have to load it in, you still have to go to the process of loading it in, but what you can do is save yourself time when it's ready to play those songs. So, as an example, if I want to play, say, those first 3 songs, and I don't want to load them in every time while I'm playing, I'm going to do all the work in advance. So I might hit Angels We Have Heard, load in A, and then put it into the A. And then I'll do it again, load, setups, Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer. It's on the A bank. I'm going to select it, and then I'm going to put it into the B. You saw it real quickly there. And then I'm going to do the next one, load setups, and I'm going to load, I know Carrie's is all on the A, so I'm going to hit select the A, and then I'm going to tell it to go into the C. And then I'm going to continue on, and I'm going to go, I want, Holy Night. Okay, that's on the A bank as well. So I'm going to type in Holy, I'm going to select A, and I'm going to put it into the D bank. And then I'm going to use one more time, and let's see what we got here. She's got Holly Jolly. That's on the C bank, so I'm going to select C. I'm going to grab it from the C and then put it into the E. And so essentially what happened is I just loaded each of those individually into the A, B, C, D, and E. Okay? So now the unfortunate part, some of us do this or not, but when you pull up the presets, sometimes you can't tell because we didn't label it. But if you did it right, you should have your presets. This is, what song was it for? Angels We Have Heard. That's right. And the B bank is, and the C bank is, Christmas Tree. Okay, and then the D bank was Oh Holy Night. And then the E bank was, I forget what it was. Holly Jolly? Anyway, so now that I have all 5 banks loaded, then I can at least play 5 songs without having to load them. So you still got to go through the motions of loading them. But when it's time to play, start playing, all you have to do is start playing the song. Okay? Mm-hmm. Now, if you want, you can go a step further. I have the 5 songs, or if you have that, you can experiment with that, as you can do them in order, and at least you can have all the 5 songs. If you want to go a step further, then you take that group and you save them onto the USB as one group. The trick is this. There are 5 songs in this case, 5 song titles. You only have so much room for the wording. So it gets a little tricky, I know, but you may have to label it in a way that would jog your memory so you know. Usually when you title stuff a certain way, you use the abbreviations and the letters and things like that. Usually when you do that, you sort of remember what was there before. Okay? So, one thing I do want to go over today, this question came up with a student I was talking to the other day, and I thought, and I said to her, I taught that back about 5 months ago. It's on YouTube somewhere, go find it. And I said, I'll go find that link for you, and then I'll share it with you. Well, I didn't find it. I know it's there. And I have to go back of my notes. So I said, I'll just teach it again, or do a variation of it. And what it is, I got two things here. One is the golden harp. Now, how many of you use the golden harp? Show of hands. It's a very, very pretty feature, isn't it? In fact, what I didn't mention when I taught my Silent Night class, and I did it on the holiday camp. Now, by the way, when I post these presets on our Patreon, I took my setups yesterday. You'll see that I labeled them C, where originally, when I did the holiday camp USB, you'll see it says B, okay? So when I upload this up to our Patreon, if you know how to download them, here's what's going to happen. Just FYI. So I'm going to hit Silent Night, and I'm going to go ahead and go all. Now, the class that I taught yesterday, I revised the way I did those setups. So that's why it says C1 through 6. But here's a little hidden gem in these presets. If you hit all, here's what's going to happen. You ready?
Right.
Watch this. So, on the A bank are the presets for Joy to the World that I did. The B bank is the original, and you can see I titled it at the top there. The original presets that I did for Silent Night during the holiday camp. The C bank are the new ones, C1 through 6, but you see it says Silent Night at the top. And I don't know what's on D, but on the E is Rudolph. Okay? So just kind of a little bonus. So if I touch the preset 1, that first setup, though, what I think I didn't tell anybody I did, is I actually used the golden harp in the beginning of that song without a rhythm. And it's kind of there just as a kind of a nice little hidden gem. You hear it? So I started the song. Oh, wait. It's a quiet night. Were there crickets way back then?
Yeah.
How long have crickets been around?
Um,
I thought about that afterwards. I put that in there like, wait a second. How long have crickets been around? Were they around during that time? Oh, well, see if you can figure that out. I don't know if Google will tell you that. Maybe it will. So I have the crickets going on. But did you hear the little golden harp going there? So I used the golden harp in that, and what I did was I didn't just use, you have multiple ways of using the golden harp. Those crickets, boy, they don't want to go away, do they? Some of the sound effects, if you haven't noticed, when you turn them on, they activate, they stay on until you touch it again. There we go. All right, so I'm going to activate the golden harp button on the E models. It's towards the left side of the organ. All right. And on the A and the SU, It's, I want to move my computer closer. I have to keep standing up, but so on the
Okay,
E,
so let's,
on the EX, it's over here. And on the A and the SU, it's over here. Okay? And on the A and the SU models, they have, it says Golden Harp 1 and more. And then on some of the other models, it has 1, 2, 3 and more. And essentially, when you hit the more button, you get all 8 different patterns. Okay? Now, I want to reiterate that these are patterns. These aren't sounds. So you notice there it says, up and down, up only, down only, virtuoso. Those were the original Golden Hearts that came out on the Royale back in 2001. And I think they were even on the generation before that, a few of them. And I believe the Royale had, well, it may have all 8, I'm not sure, but I know it has 4 for sure. And then you have skip and their patterns. Now the guitar and the banjo, a lot of people make the mistake of not using it because they think, oh, I don't want a guitar sound on. It's just the pattern, the way the guitar player would play and finger pick the strings as well as the banjo. So when you hear this, and let me turn off the sound so you could hear just the Golden Harp guitar pattern. So right now I have a Golden Harp on, but it's playing the notes in the pattern the way a guitar player would play. Now let me put on the banjo pattern and do the same thing. They're similar, but they're different. Watch. Now it's back to banjo. Okay? So the reason why I'm saying that is don't get caught in the trap that I've got to use those patterns with certain styles of music. A lot of people see banjo and they go, well, then I can't, I'm going to play that with country music. Well, I'm going to leave it on the banjo pattern, and I'm going to play the same thing, that introduction to Silent Night, and listen. Okay? So these patterns, they work well no matter no matter what style of music that you're playing. That was a banjo pattern that I was using for a very, very pretty song. The next step to the Golden Harps is on the A and the SU models. They call it Genius. And then on here, they just call all of the Genius buttons, are also known as sounds. And what is a Genius button? Well, what is a sound button? I always say it's like a wild card in cards. You know, we all have our typical sounds that we have on the instrument, but it's with cards, if you have a wild card, you can make it anything, right? Well, that's what a sound or a Genius button is. It gives you access to any of the sounds that you have in the instrument. So on the Golden Harp, you have the patterns that you can choose, and then you can also choose what sound you want it to be playing, okay? And they're usually, if I'm not mistaken, looking around there, the sound and the Golden Harp is together, next to each other, and on the A and the SU, you'll see the Golden Harp and you'll see the Genius button right next to it, okay? And so, pulling up that screen again, so right now I'm going to keep it on the, let's see, I'll go to guitar pattern. I'm going to keep it on this setup that I have right now, okay? And now what I'm going to do is pull up the sounds button or the Genius. And I might need to change my screens here. Hold on. Let's see here. All right. Now, can you see this okay? Good enough?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay. I know it's a little blurry, but I want to concentrate on the top part there. Okay. I have left, right, full, but I don't have top. Okay. So right now, that's the pattern that's on. And this is the sound that's in there. Okay, and I'll just play the same chord. So it's kind of interesting because it's playing a guitar pattern, but with the vibe sound. Let me do the same thing. And it works very nicely. So you can mix and match. Don't get caught up on the sound having to go with a certain style of music. Your ears will tell you if it sounds okay or if you like it or not. If I do the same thing, banjo pattern. And then if you go on skip pattern, it does that, just that, skips, the notes skip. So that's a step pattern, sorry. Skip pattern is going to be similar, but you can have a lot of fun with these harps. Typically, harps are not commonly used with fast, upbeat rhythms, but you can still use them. You can try it out. But, you know, any of the sounds that you choose, I tend to stick to, a lot of times I tend to stick to the bells, vibes, sometimes piano as well. It gets a little weird when you start using things like vocal. I don't know. Let's see. It just sounds kind of, well, to my ears, you know. You can choose whatever one you want. Bells is commonly a sound that's programmed with a lot of the presets. So if I go to the bells, I mean, you could have the dogs barking in an arpeggio. If you're ever curious what dogs would sound like if they did an arpeggio. But if you go back to bells, okay, where was I looking for? Bells, okay, and there's several different bells, which is very pretty. Okay, now right now I'm not even using a rhythm. If I put on a rhythm, like my waltz rhythm that I have, let me go back to the, I'm going to keep it on the vibes and the guitar pattern, okay? And watch, this is without the harp. Let me just turn on the harp. If you want to go a step further, you say, well, maybe I'll make the guitar sound with the guitar pattern. Okay, actually I'm going to take a shortcut here. Keypad, G. Let's see, this may sound okay, may not. Let's see.
Wow.
Ooh, not bad. Et cetera. I can just keep playing. The point is, start pushing some of those buttons. Start using some of these buttons, and or the golden harp sounds, and then choose the patterns, change the sounds in there. And you know, the common question of, is that the right sound to use with this or not, or whatever. The right sound is what your ears tells you. So if your ears tell you, hey, it sounds good, then it's a good sound. If it's a pattern that you like, it's a good pattern. Okay. The last thing I want to touch on on the golden harp is really not the golden harp, but the golden harp is kind of it ties into the golden harp. And that is these virtuosos. All right? So here I have two virtuosos. Many of you have at least one, I hope. If you feel the need to get a second one on this side here, okay, just give me a call. I have some of these second virtuosos for sale. They're a little pricey. The cost of the left virtuoso is so much money that we throw in a free marquee with it. They're non-negotiable prices. Anyway, so now I've had many people that only have one or actually two, it doesn't matter. What's the difference between the left and the right, okay? The difference is they work the same way. You change them the same way. The difference is you have two access points, okay? So for me, depending on the model that I'm sitting at, when I play and use the virtuoso, I have a tendency that when I decide that I want to use the virtuoso, I have a tendency to hold on to the melody note, a part in the song that I may hold for a while, and while I'm holding the note, then I reach up and use the virtuoso. So if I just left it on here, and I want to use it at some point, I may take a moment and hold the note. Okay, well, in some songs they have, you know, notes where places where you can hold the note for a while, and I like to hold the note so it's not just this dead space with me doing this. Okay, for some people that's a little challenging. It could be for physical reasons, or it could just be, you know, I have to cross over and be coordinated. So they have a tendency of doing this. I like to so like a part of that song there where I have the F chord holding, the chord's holding, and I can continue playing. Okay. The idea of the left one is you could just program what you want in the left and the right. Sometimes it's also a little easier to it's just a little bit easier on the reach, all right? Now, what I'm going to show you is what you can do with those virtuosos, okay? And let me change the screen here. And just so that way you have an understanding, because a lot of times people just, when you're playing, I just see they just start running their hand up there. So on the dashboard here, there's a button that's labeled Grand Virtuoso, and on the A models, it just says Virtuoso right here. Right here it says Grand Virtuoso. It says that because there's two of them. On all the other A models, it'll just say Virtuoso. Okay? And when you press that button, you're going to get a screen that shows up on a screen that will populate. Okay? Now, I'm going to change the view just so it's a little bit easier to see now. Okay, whoops. So you'll see here, there's the left and there's the right. Okay? Anything I can do here, I can do here as well. So you can choose how you want it to, what you want each one to do. And it's pretty simple, okay? So I'm going to work on the right side. Most everybody has the right, all right? And this word source, it's telling me where, when I run my finger on that virtuoso, where is the sound going to come from?
Golden harp.
In this case, it is the golden harp, okay? Now, here's the part that I want you to, hopefully it makes sense to you. Hopefully I'm clear on this. Just because it says golden harp, and I run my finger on that virtuoso, does not mean it's going to always be a golden harp sound. What, Robert? That doesn't make sense. It just means that's where it's pulling the sound from. So what that means is this. Whatever sound is programmed in the golden harp at that time, if that's selected like that, that's the sound that you're going to get when you run your finger on the virtuoso. Okay? Now let me explain it a little further by doing this. So you see that screen. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go in my golden harp. I'm going to pull up a pattern. Doesn't matter. Okay? So it's the guitar pattern. But in my golden harp, the sound that's there is vibes. Okay? You see? I put vibes in there. Now let me go back to the Grand Virtuoso. So it says, come on, screen. Okay. All right, so it says that when I run my finger on that virtuoso, it's pulling the sound from whatever's in the golden harp. But what I have programmed in the golden harp right now is the vibe sound. So watch. Even if I don't have the golden harp on, golden harp, the button, that's just activating the pattern to go up and down when you're playing the chord. I'm telling the organ, in this case, the right bar, you could do the same on the left, is I want whatever sound is programmed in the golden harp at that time, so that when I'm playing and I run my finger on there, okay, so hopefully that makes some sense. Mm-hmm. So when you look at that screen and you see golden harp and you decide to run your finger and you hear piano, just know that maybe whatever was programmed in the golden harp sound, it was a piano. Now if I turn off the sound or turn off the genius on the golden harp and it's on the golden harp, well then that's the sound you're going to get. Make sense? Okay. Now, let's go back to that screen there. And there's a couple other things. And this one is a little bit, it's not as, I shouldn't say it's confusing, but it's a little easier to understand. So you'll see it says golden harp. Now, if I choose the source, it says upper. Well, that's pretty simple. Whatever sound you happen to have programmed in the upper keyboard is the sound that's going to go in the Virtuoso. In this case, I have some guitar and some strings. I run my finger on the Virtuoso. Okay, and I'll come back to the screen in a minute. And then on the lower right, it's plain and simple. Now, right now I have, I don't have an actual sound, I have sound effects. So you can choose, when you have upper or lower right, whatever sound is in that upper keyboard or lower right, that's what you're going to get in here. So right now I have sound effects. Okay. Okay? And if for those of you who have two virtuosos, you could have some fun. You could say, you know what, I like that, but I also like the guitar sound. And maybe you put that sound here and you go into the source of the left and you say upper. And so you could have a little fun with this. Having fun with that. I wish I'd have thought of that before I put that arrangement together. Anyway, and then last but not least, you probably saw something in that screen there. You'll see it says pattern. And this just means when you run your finger on the key, this is what's called a normal pattern. So if I put it, I'll put it back to golden harp. So if I have like a C chord, it's doing a C, G. If I do a skip pattern, you'll notice the notes skip every other note of that chord. Very pretty. So you can choose the pattern, you can choose the sound, you can choose whatever you want. I don't know what will happen if I do lower right with a skip pattern. It might do.
So how is Vicky?
It's good.
It becomes very interesting. You can spend a lot of time having some fun with just the golden harp and the virtuosos, because they kind of go hand in hand to some degree. Okay? All right. Well, I have I don't know if you saw the email, but I said I have a little presentation I'm going to do. And you know what? I'm going to play some songs on this marvelous instrument because I've been, every time in the past I'd get a model like this, it doesn't stay here for very long. But I was very fortunate, I'm going to say. I have a student that purchased it and is, instead of me shipping it to her house and leaving it there for 6 months, she decided, well, just keep it here and I'll come and learn on it from time to time. And then when we go back, then ship it. And that'll give me 6 months to make sure if there's anything, check out, make sure everything works. Plus, we have it for classes and things like that. So I'm going to have a little fun here. And I'm going to play a few numbers for you and show off some of my favorite songs and some of my favorite features that when this model is introduced. Now I'm going to load in my presets here. And I have the first one I'll play is actually very fitting because this time of the year. But these presets that I put together on the marquee, it was my original demo. And when I did this, I put them in order A1 through 10. And then when I got to 10, I pushed B and I went 10, 9, 8, 7, and I went frontwards and backwards because I had a PowerPoint and I was learning all these new songs and I was learning all these new features and I was thinking, I don't want to goof this up on the introduction. So the first one here, this is actually the third song that I played in the initial rollout. The marquee, by the way, and the Grand Marquee and the Aria, they're all in the EX family, and they're phenomenal models. It introduced so many great features.
I love mine.
You love yours? Who said that? I love mine too. Technically, it's not mine yet. It's not mine, but don't let her see that. Okay, anyway, so the first one here is, it's called Doo-Wop Delight. This was a new style that was introduced on the marquee when it came out, and it featured the Drifters version of White Christmas, and I even transposed it in the right key. Listen to this. Stay seated, stay seated, stay. So you're all stay seated still. It also introduced, and I won't go through all of the settings, but it introduced a new, some of the models, I don't know if some of you are familiar with an organ called the Liberty, which was a pretty impressive model when it was introduced. When the Liberty was introduced, they introduced a feature called MCS Plus, which was really cool because it allowed you, the player, the hobby player, to play their chords like they normally do. Now, some people still play 1 and 2 fingers. That's okay. Some people go, like me, I go from 3 to 1. Like there, when I do an A flat, I hit A flat. And what it did is no matter what style of chord player you were, it would do 6, 7, and 8 finger chords and in the right range so it sounds correct to the ears. When the marquee was introduced, they actually introduced, let's see if I have it on the screen there, 4 new MCS chord options. Jazz two-hand is the first one that I mentioned, which is what was introduced on the Liberty, okay? And then they introduced what's called normal two-hands, and that's kind of like where the chords are like a nice simple CEG type of a chord, where jazz two-hands actually does like a 6th and a 9th chord. Blues actually adds, I can't remember, I want to say it was the 7th or the 9th or the something, but I don't try to remember it. I just know that when I activate it, I play and it does it for me. Theater is like a 4-finger chord. And then the Grand Marquis, when it was introduced a light. Now this is interesting because this is actually a 2-note chord. And so if you like transpose the organ down a lot, like I do sometimes I'll turn and activate that and it'll give me a nice two-finger chord where it doesn't sound muddy. Open is really cool. You think about a C chord, C-E-G, okay? What an open chord does is it takes a traditional chord, takes the middle note out, and brings it down an octave. Now, even if you could do that manually, you need two hands typically to do that, or really long fingers to play every one of your chords, and it does it automatically. So there's some really cool things that were introduced on both these models. One of my other favorite, well, I shouldn't say that. All of my favorite stuff is a feature called Cascade. Now, some of you have seen like Joe Fontesha. Joe Fontesha's been playing over, I think, 50 years. Marco Mendez, some of you know Marco. Yeah, he's all right. I say that because he's very impressive, the fingers. But I remember for many years, Marco would be playing, and I remember asking him from time to time, how did you do that? And he'd go, oh, it's really easy. You just got to do this. And then I see him do this, and I go, no, it's not that easy. And what he would do is he would take certain sounds like, like a piano and strings, and then he'd go, and he'd do that throughout the entire song. And then when Lowrey introduced a feature called Cascade, where it does it for you, you just got to hold the note. And depending on the rhythm you're using, or if you're playing manually, the speed, it does it automatically. And they're not always cascading down. Sometimes the notes change. See, those notes bounce around, and it depends on what harmony is selected. And all I have to do, here's like what strings, very subtle, listen. Very subtle. You hear those strings gradually cascading? Now, by the way, for those of you who have this, I'm using the Cascade category, by the way. So they gave us some recipes. Now, if you look on the screen, Lowrey was pretty good about giving you identifiers. You see how these presets, it says category cascades. You'll see that, you can kind of see it. It's a little blurry. There's a little @ symbol after each one of those. So if you have a preset on, if you're not using this category presets and you're using something else, it could be big band, soft and easy, you're not going to see all 10 like this, but you'll see occasionally, you'll see one preset show up. If you see this little @ symbol, you'll know that the Cascade feature is automatically activated on that sound. And this one happens to have all of them because this is what those presets are for. Oh, gosh, it's so much fun. I gotta let you see what I'm doing so you don't think I'm tricking you. I'm just holding one note down. Watch. If you notice, I'm holding the chord. Every time I change a chord, woo, having so much fun here. All right, some more music for you. And of course, I have a lot of fun with, let's Oh, my tie is going off. Can you hear that? All right. So here's a style that I actually fell in love with, and it's called orchestral ballad. And so this time of the year, it works great with songs like White Christmas as well, or chestnuts. Is it chestnuts or chipmunks roasting on an open fire? Is it chestnuts or chipmunks?
Chestnuts,
Oh, not chip.
Chestnuts.
Yeah, we don't want to roast
Chestnut.
chipmunks.
chipmunks.
Yeah, we don't want to roast chipmunks, do we? And then I might have some fun with the virtuosos. Let's hear. Oh boy, I'm having a lot of fun. And there were so many other innovations. I could be here all day long, but actually new sound effects. They even had,
Oops.
in case you make a mistake, you can just tell everybody.
Oops.
That's Joni Monero, by the way. I know some of you know that. We we also had, this was the first time they introduced MP recording. So you can, I actually had a student that had a whole catalog of vinyl records, and very under lock and key and careful. And they got a record player, a modern record player that they could connect into the organ here. And they said that they actually recorded a lot of their favorite songs off of their vinyl records onto a USB so they could hear it in their car. They said it was a little hard to play a record in their car while they were driving down the road. Not because it was a record, because it would scratch if it was driving.
Did you know that years and years ago, there was a car model that did have a record player in it?
Is that right? I did not know that.
Yes, yes.
I'm,
It
I
folded
did-
down in the center and you could play a record.
I'm assuming you did that when you weren't driving.
I guess so.
Just pull over and listen to a record. Or maybe the
Your
teenagers, so I had a little fun. Come on, come with me, honey. Put
One
on
of
some
my
mood music
friends-
record.
One of my friends actually had that in her car, and her husband would have her change the record.
How about that? Learn something new every day. Anyway, so and some other fun little things we had here. You know, a lot of new styles. Many of you have heard us using this style here, and this is the one that we do. It's called swaying Latin, and it's great. You can do stuff like this, or if you play a minor chord, you could do this. Michael Bublé's band arrangement of the song Sway.
Yes.
my gosh. And then this style here, I actually absolutely love because it's perfect for the song I'm going to play a little bit of. But if you like you like to play some really pretty ballads with a piano style, put this style on. The style is called Always in Mind. Notice that piano. I had to transpose down. That was the crowd applauding in the key of D. Anyway, so really gorgeous styles. Now, what separates the Marquis from a Grand Marquis? Because actually, if you put the two side by side, they're identical in the buttons. Now, the Grand Marquis was an interesting model because what essentially happened is the year that the aria was supposed to come out was going to be sort of at the end of the year. That was when it was the target date. And somehow word got out that Lowrey was making a new supermodel, and we didn't know it was called the aria yet, but we knew it was something super and was going to be expensive and et cetera, et cetera. And Jim Weta, many of you probably met him at one point or another, he basically told his boss, he said, listen, word's getting out that we're building a supermodel and we've got a bunch of marquees ready to be put together and try to be sold to our dealers. We're going to see less and less orders because people are going to want to save up capital to buy this new top of the line. So what he did is they more or less convinced them to take the 100 cabinets that they had at the time. They had the components, and they had a lot of the aria completed, and they said, let's take some of the best features and sounds, and not everything, so we could still have an organ to sell later, and let's add it to the Marquis. And that's exactly what they did. So they had a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun with this. And I could be here an hour and a half. I went back and looked at one of my demos on the Grand Marquis, and it was just all the additional things above the Marquis. And I thought, how did I talk for an hour and 9 minutes? And I didn't really talk a lot. I actually did a lot of playing too. Well, I talk a lot too, but and I still didn't even show everything in there. But you know, there's so many great new styles in here. For example, this style here is always a fun style to showcase. It's called Venus. Mm-hmm. That's the name of the style. And they didn't do play on words on these new styles. They actually used the name of the style as the name of the song. So when you play it, it's really a beautiful Latin style that works great with great Latin tunes, or you play the song that it's designed for. an endless list of amazing features. And it's new presets, and there's actually some styles. I know that everyone this has happened to everyone. It happens to me all the time. We pick a style we like, and sometimes they're, for lack of better words, busy, because maybe that type of song that it was designed for, that's the way that song was written. And we have a tendency of telling students, when you're playing, if you have a style that's too busy, just reach up and hit Orchestra Plus. Turn it off. And that works. The problem with that idea sometimes is that what it does is you have your drummer, your bass, and then in the Genie, it's typically a piano or guitar type sound. And the Orchestra Plus are all the other musicians in the band. So when you turn them off, you turn off the reason why you might like that rhythm to begin with. So then we have some classes where you can go in and edit the style on the screen and change what's in the screen and so forth. And some people do that, and some people just, it's beyond me, I just use whatever. So what Lowrey did was very clever. They came up with a group of styles called LITE, light. And they gave us 10 great styles that work with hundreds of songs. So you weren't limited to just a handful of songs. And each one, it's pretty obvious when you hear it. In some cases, light big band, light swing gypsy, light march or polka, light Latin, light shuffle, light 2-beat, light 16-beat, light piano, light guitar, light saber swing. That means if you're a Star Wars fan, you can have a little fun with that. Or you can, it's really like a Charleston style as well. I'll just push the first one I see, light big band. And it's orchestrated enough to be appealing. And unlike a basic rhythm, where a lot of times a basic rhythm is just that, it's basic. So a lot of people don't use those basic rhythms. This is simple and easy to follow, but it's orchestrated enough to be very appealing. So let's see here, light big band. I was having some fun there. I'll play one more for you. I have some fun here. By the way, the Fake It was a little bit different as well. In a lot of the models, there's a Fake It feature. And when it was originally introduced, we thought it was a pretty cool feature, and it still is. But when you activate it, both keyboards are activated, and when it originally came out, it was simple. You just found two notes, and you kind of what Don calls noodling. Okay, and noodling, you just don't go like this. You don't hit two notes and you noodle based on the style of music that you're using. So if I was using that style, I wouldn't go like this. You would kind of tap the notes based on the style. So I might do something like this. And then just tap the notes accordingly how I feel. It doesn't matter which one you're playing, it's how you phrase the notes. And then inevitably, Lowrey introduced what's called auto fake it, where you hold the note down. Oop, let me turn on fake it. And then they took that a step further on the marquee, and they made it so if you just hit two black notes, that's what I was doing when I was playing the song, and then I could. But I took it a step further on the Grand Marquee. They gave it to where you could assign it on the top or bottom or both. So what that allows me to do is when I activate the keyboard, so for example, let me put on, let's do a little something like this. Find a sound I want. Oh, here we go. All right, so now I'm going to have the fake it on the lower right keyboard. And when I activate it, it'll start doing its thing, do a little solo, and then I can continue playing the song up here. Or I can reverse the keyboard. Well, I'm having fun. I hope you're enjoying it as well. Anyway, so I know some of you go back and watch these, so I put something here. You can pause it. I'm not going to keep it up for more than 10 seconds. But in all, these two models is absolutely phenomenal. This is a snapshot of all the things that were introduced on the marquee. Look at that. After the A technology was introduced, you had what they called new music favorite styles, style suite categorize. You had a screen 4 times the size as most screens, cascade harmony, key glide I didn't touch on, that allows you to bend the notes on the upper keyboard versus using the kick switches. We had new tap tempo features that counted. A lot of things I wouldn't have a lot of time to do in one little session. Obviously, they introduced new styles in the marquee. There were like over 300 and I think I want to say 70 or something like that. They had new vintage style setups, or the vintage style setups were used to new style setups. I think there were over 13 style setups. New category presets, the Grand Virtuoso, the MP3 Studio, MCS Plus 4, Auto Fake It Plus, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then when the Grand Marquis was introduced, Check that out. Oh, it's kind of tiny. I had to put it all on one screen. But it had over 14,000 setups, 374 orchestrated styles. They had the new Rio styles, new MCS pluses. Auto Fake It was, then finally they had the Auto Fake It plus, 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 plus. New classic styles features, so to access your other styles. I mean, the list just went on and on. So if you have one of these instruments, I know many of you do, enjoy. If you don't have one, call me. We actually have two very unique situations where we have one in Arizona, not this one's sold, and we have one in Florida. And both were acquired in very, very unique circumstances. And I worked it out so that for the holidays, being in the holiday spirit here, we worked it out so we can offer it for a fraction of its original cost. The original cost, by the way, when the Grand Marquis was introduced, not many people don't know this, but our retail back when it was introduced was about $83,000. It was not inexpensive. And some dealers even sold them for more, depending on the agreement they had with Lowrey. So we have one in each state. I'm going to encourage you to reach out to your personal assistant, find out what they're doing. It's a phenomenal product. All of the A stuff that you have on your A series models can be converted and put into it so you don't lose anything. But it's a great, fabulous product. They're very difficult to find, very hard to get, and typically when we get them, special models like that, they don't last very long. The Aria, for example, that we got about a week ago was sold within 2 hours. This model, these two models, I just acquired them recently, and I put them in the email blast, so you might have seen that email yesterday. If you already have one, maybe get one for your other bedroom. Sounds like a good idea. Anyway, that's all I have for you today. I hope you learned something today. I taught a few things. I did some recap on some stuff. And hopefully I taught you something new that maybe you normally use. And hopefully you had a great time getting a little tiny snapshot of what a fabulous product like this offers, okay? I will get this up on our YouTube as quickly as I can. So I want to say thank you so much from the bottom of my heart and the Fletcher Music Centers for all that you do. And see you real soon. Stay safe, keep playing music, and bye, everybody.
Bye.